All right, so welcome back to the F3 Northeast Wake Q Source podcast. I've got my friend here with me, Mike Ballard, Kitty Hawk. Kitty Hawk, thanks for being willing to jump in on this episode of the Q Source podcast.
Yeah, man, I got three things to tell you before you start. Number
Okay.
one,
All right.
I told you I didn't realize I'm guilty. I haven't looked at any of the podcasts. I was amazed at A, how many episodes you've done,
All right.
and B, thank you for doing that because that's an amazing archive you're building of these videos, and I'm sure it's going to be very helpful. Number two, I found it ironic that the same guys that voluntold me to come be a guest today have
Hey,
never
we've been
been
on it.
yet. So
Call them
that was
out,
a
Mike. Call them
challenge.
out. We can call some people out and
Yeah,
get them
Little
signed up.
Dingy and Oscar Mayer, you
You're
are up
next,
next.
boys. You're
So, and then
you're next. We're gonna get you
yeah,
on here.
the third and final is, man, I didn't recognize anyone. Like it's when they're on video, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's him. They
Yeah.
look completely different
You
on
don't have
video.
your hat on, your workout gear. It's
Yeah,
it's actually light outside.
yeah, like I really don't have hair. So
Yeah. Yeah, right. Well, so this week we are in quadrant two. It's Q2.1. It's impact. Um, it's probably not what I thought when I read the chapter. Impact is a word that we could really use to describe lots of things. But I think the way the author is using impact is how we as men are able to impact each other and what it takes to impact other people and maybe the type of men that need us to step into their lives to impact them. And as I told you, Kitty Hawk, I don't feel the need to reteach a chapter. I'd love to hear what it means to you. And all the guests that we've had on, it's just been about, what does this concept look like in your life as we kind of like share with our fellow packs, like how we live this out. So love to know just where your heart went, and we can take this conversation wherever you feel like it needs to go.
sure. Yeah, it's always hard for me. I think I'm not an introvert, but I'm
Hmm.
not an extrovert. I can go and I can small talk with anyone for hours, um, including my wife. But the moment we get to something deeper, something in me naturally like shuts down. Uh, I don't know what it is, and I don't like it, and I fight it daily. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Actually, for years now, I've done this for my wife on my phone every night, like around 7 o'clock or so. I get a reminder to remind me, have you had some kind of deeper conversation
Hmm.
with your wife as opposed to how was your day? What'd you do? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and the same thing goes with other people. I'm at our church. I'm one of the elders in leadership, and I have no problem walking around and be like, "Hey, how was your week?" and that kind of thing. But my one of my responsibilities is to help shepherd people's souls, and
Hmm.
I have to now step in front and be a little bit more deeper than how you do it. It's more of like, let's take this a step further and kind of get all up in people's junk. Not to be annoying, but to be there for as to let them know that like I'm not just here to talk. I mean, I am here to talk small talk, but I'm also available to go deeper because I care about you. So it's something that's very intentional in my life because it has to be. Otherwise, I just
Yeah, man, let's peel on that for a second. So you're saying it's clearly something you value, but it hasn't been a natural thing, but now you're being intentional about it as a desire to want to enter into deeper relationship. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
yeah, you're exactly right. And it's because it's not a natural thing for me. Again, I can't explain why. I don't know if it's a guy thing. I don't
Mhm.
know what. And I'm not afraid to go into deeper topics with people. I just have to be very intentional about it. And I think, when you read this chapter, do we call it chapter?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, good. I didn't know if that's some rename like I
Yeah, right, right.
good right now. Uh, well, when I read it, that was the first thing that came to my mind is, a lot of times we'll see someone, I don't know, off in the corner, kind of hurt. Let's just say it's, 5:30 in the morning and there's kind of the new guy, or it's like me in the very back of the pack because I hate running and I'm
Mhm.
always last. And um, I've seen guys just come right up alongside someone and just start chatting with them. Um, and they're intentionally reaching out. And you know who's really good at this? And I'm gonna, even though I called him out at the beginning, but I'm gonna call him out again
No,
because it's Little Dingy.
he
So
is.
for those that don't know, Dingy
Yeah.
is my brother-in-law. So I
Okay.
spend way too much time with the guy. And he's amazing in situations where he'll just go up to a random stranger and just start talking with them, like not a hi, how you doing? Like I remember one time we were in Black Mountain. I forget why, but we were there and there was a guy reading, I forget, some kind of book. And Dingy starts talking to him about divorce and found out that
Wow.
this couple, they're both divorced and they're now engaged. And Dingy starts having a conversation about what he's learned in marriage and how that can apply to them. And he's like mailing them a book. I mean, it's like all this within 10 minutes of a random stranger at a Cuban restaurant. And um, like it does take something very intentional to go
I'm
and
thinking about Dingy. I remember he was probably the first guy to make me feel welcome.
mm,
Yeah, I really remember, the first one to remember my name, to follow up with me. He'd run with me my first few times before I knew anybody else. Like he's the
yeah,
kind of guy who's going to find the new guy and he's going to make sure that new guy isn't running alone and he
right,
feels like he's welcome. And it wasn't just, um, hey, your name's Money Pit. Like he was engaging conversation while we're running. And I started paying attention to him, and he's very intentional about that with lots of men. It's like he feels, I don't know if it's instinct or a responsibility to want to
yeah,
engage, but
yeah,
clearly, as we're talking, I mean, here, if you haven't caught it, listener, we've been talking about this impact the whole time. I mean, this is what this chapter is about, and clearly, Dingy is taking this concept of impact and having proximity, forcible contact to get in a person's story to initiate. And the way he does it is disarming because he's not threatening, he's caring, he's genuine, and as someone that does that very naturally and obviously builds rapport very quickly. He did with me for sure.
yeah, yeah. And it really takes a special person. But again, it's you have to want to do it. Most people aren't going to naturally feel it. You gotta push yourself to do that and know that it's needed.
Yeah. So, a lot of the chapters kind of like, if we can kind of steer a corner into it a little bit more, the author's talking about, there's this sir continuum. So you have survivor on one end. This is someone who takes from a community. They're in need. They're not able to really give back. On the other end of the continuum is the servant who is there to serve, who's the dinghy, who's there to give. He doesn't need anything from anybody. He is there sheerly to be able to pour out and be a resource, to be a loving guide, and then also throws in the mix kind of the sad clown who's not necessarily taking but isn't giving either, is somewhat faking it till he makes it, is trying to look a part that he's not really. And the chapter's about, how it's about the need for servants to be able to engage sad clowns and to be able to engage survivors because they need those servants in their lives and the communities, to kind of to step into that. Any thoughts on Sir Continuum, Sad Clown, where what that's looked like in your life?
Yeah, I think in the sad clown part, it's easy for us to I think it's pretty easy for us to find that person.
Mm.
By nature, I think we're all judgmental. We can spot someone and kind of be like, oh man, they're down on their luck, right? And then there's some that just hide it really well. And it kind of goes back to, what is your purpose in friendships?
Mhm.
Is it to go, I don't know, go hang out and have a buddy to have a beer with, or is it someone to kind of dive in and walk life with him?
Mhm.
Um, we are called to bear one another's burdens,
Mhm.
and to seek that person out. But I
Well,
think
the sad clown wears a mask and basically trying to tell the world, I'm okay, I've got
yeah,
this, it's under control. But the reality is it's not.
yeah,
The sad clown isn't okay. It's
right,
not under control.
yeah,
They're in desperate need of help. They just feel too vulnerable to ask for it.
yeah,
They've got they're clown because they're wearing a mask, but the reality is they don't hide it as much as they think they can hide it, but they really can't. I mean, if you're a servant, you can see a sad clown
yeah,
because I was a sad clown, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. I think but you'll see them, but to remove that mask requires an intentional reach out and just building a
Yeah.
relationship as
Yeah,
well.
that's right.
Because you want to be, I don't know, you kind of want to be that safe person.
Yeah.
And again, questions are really good. And
Yeah.
sometimes. Sometimes even being direct is good. I mean, that's a hard thing to do where we don't want to offend someone.
Mhm.
But honestly, sometimes if we don't offend someone, we're actually hurting them even more. If
Yeah.
we don't ask some of those
Well,
difficult questions.
also, some of the things we're afraid to offend, people are really dying to be asked.
Yeah,
Like some of these things that we're afraid we think it's too personal to ask about,
right.
oftentimes that person just desperately needs to talk about it. They need you to say, "Hey, I'm sorry that your wife left you. I'm sorry your
Yeah,
grandfather died. That must hurt. That must be painful.
right.
Would you like to talk about it?" I mean, if you've been that person who's lost a loved one or had something bad go in your life, you're consumed with it. And as much as you're ashamed and afraid to tell anybody, at the same time, you desperately need a friend.
Yeah. Like I give you a good example. Actually, just happened over the weekend. It's a good friend of mine. His dad passed away like a month or so ago, and he was older, so it wasn't like a tragic thing, but still something obviously impactful when your father dies. And we were cooking pigs together, and actually we were shredding the pigs at this point.
Mhm.
And I asked him, I go, hey, how's thing? I know your dad just died a month or so ago. How you doing with that? Um, Fine. And it's like shut down, right? And that's when intentional Mike had to dive a little bit deeper. Like I think normal Mike would be, oh, okay, he's not
Oh,
gonna
he's
want to,
fine. Okay.
let's move on.
Hmm.
Yeah, let's talk about the game or
Hmm.
whatever. But intentional Mike has to now take that step. Yeah, but like, do you miss him? Like, do you have
Yeah.
moments where you miss him, or and just and again, it's hard for guys, right? We're not naturally wired to be emotional that way, and so it
Mhm.
it it does take some unwinding.
Yeah. So maybe we share if we can think about, times when we've been a survivor or a sad clown and had someone kind of enter into our story, use that forcible contact to get in our story. Because really, what I think the hope of the chapter is for anybody in our community is that we're all able to move into the servant posture and be able to spot and see a survivor and a sad clown and know how to engage, how we can actually be the leader that they desperately need, and so maybe it's worth sharing light like here's what this is maybe what sad clown or survivor looked for me, and I'm happy to start. I remember when I was a sad clown, I probably was in my late 20s, early 30s, newer business owner, newer married, new child, and I desperately was looking for contacts and contracts. And I wore the sad clown face because I felt like I needed successful people to recognize me and affirm me and sign a deal with me. And so I sure knew how to put the smile on and button up the shirt just right and tuck it in and play the part because I needed your approval and I needed your money because I was desperate and I was a sad clown. And what I didn't want to share is I didn't have my shit together, but I sure wanted you to think I did
Hmm.
because I needed other people to do that for me. And it wasn't, and I've told the story before, it wasn't until a servant came along and recognized my sad clown and say, "Hey, why don't you come join me? Let's walk the golf course together." And it was a mentor of mine that I didn't even know I was asking for a mentor, but he probably saw a younger version of himself faking it too much and knew I was like I was crying for help without even know how and everything changed in my life when Joe Stone said, "Would you walk the golf course with me?" And it formed a relationship with a guy that I didn't have to put that face on. And he allowed me to be myself and know that I was accepted just because I was me. And I was like the slow unraveling of the sad clown Blake. Took years to finally become the servant, but I that was a sad clown that needed help, and I got one in a man who was willing to be a servant.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I think what you hit upon right there was it's basically a form of discipleship,
Oh,
um,
absolutely.
where someone intentionally reached out to you to build a relationship, um, and it's as simple as like go get coffee, go get
Yeah.
lunch, go walk a golf course, do something, and your time is literally spent hearing that other person's story.
Yes.
And and the key to that though is you have two ears and one mouth, right? So it's you have to listen twice as much as you talk.
Yes.
I've told my kids this: if you walked away from a conversation and you learn nothing about someone, then you talk too much. Um, and that same thing happens there, where if you get them in just to a normal situation, again, it's purposeful. So you got to set the time. Go have that coffee. Go take that walk or lunch or whatever, and start to get to know them. And at some point, I think you'll notice people open up pretty quickly.
Yeah, they do.
Once they lock in, just a little bit of trust. People love to tell their stories as long as someone's listening to it.
Hmm.
Uh, that's key. You got to listen.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's kind of my challenge for our community. If you are coming to the 5:30 workouts, you're already moving out of Survivor and you're moving to Servant. You just can't come to our group for very long and it not start to change you and get you unstuck. And as you move into that Servant, start to put the glasses on to look and to see who are the men in your life that need an invite. They need an invite to come work out. Come work out with me. They need an invite to walk a golf course. They need an
Yeah.
invite to have coffee. And there's part of you that might be thinking, I don't know if I'm mentor material. They may just need a friend. They
Yeah.
might just need to know that someone cares, but that is a really serious form of leadership. Back to Dingy, probably doesn't get the credit in our community as a leader that he deserves because
Don't give
his
them credit.
form
No, don't do it. You blow that up. Please
because his
don't.
form of leadership is so subtle. It's so disarming. He's not looking for attention in his lives, but it's that type of care and just being there and asking questions that helps a man move out of that stuck place. And I've had people in my life come to me and say, "Hey, would you meet with me? Would you mentor me?" And all that's fine and good, but I know from my experience, I needed someone to reach out to me. And I think we can be bold enough to see someone, and we don't have to tell them how to live their life or tell them what's wrong, but just to say, "Hey, man, would you want to get together? Can I
Yeah.
help?"
Yeah. Yeah. And it's even not it's something that's not big, right? It is just that
Mm-mm.
get together for the coffee or what have you. Yeah.
So let's, as we just kind of wrap and wind this up, and I appreciate your time. I think it's really great how you were picked, especially as you're willing to share, like you've had to be intentional about your engagement with other men because there's a side of you that will very quickly kind of stay in the shallow end, but that you desire for more. I think, just speaking from that point, what kind of parting advice could you give to men who find themselves kind of shying away from more intentional conversation as someone who says, "Hey, this doesn't come naturally. This is something I work at." And I think that's what makes you perfect to speak to that because a lot of us, it doesn't come natural. We need someone to say, not because they're gifted at it, but because they've stepped intentionally into it. What advice could you give our packs as we close out?
Yeah, I think a couple things. And I look at as a Christ follower and someone who wants to be like Christ.
Mm.
If you look at what he did on the earth, when he would go and minister to someone, he went to them.
Yeah.
The majority of them. There were some that did come,
Mm.
but he would see that lowly person and go approach them. And the greatest version of that, I mean, he came to Earth, right? So he was
Mm.
coming to us. The other two thing too is we are called to bear each other's burdens. I think
Mhm.
Paul in Thessalonians says something to the effect of like, when we were ready to share the gospel with you, but we were also ready to share ourselves. So not only was I going to, share good news with you, but I'm going to come alongside you to help you, whatever that is. I don't know if it's mowing the lawn or they had
Mhm.
lawn back then. I don't know.
Mhm.
So you had that. I think the other thing too is to keep in mind that, right now, I think I've seen the stats somewhere, I forget what, but this era right now, mankind is the loneliest he's ever been.
Mhm. Wow.
And I it, put on it what you want or blame it on whatever you want. It could be TikTok, it could be whatever. But that loneliness is not it's not right. Right? We
Yeah.
weren't made
Right.
to be lonely. We were actually made to be in community with people. Um, that's just how God wired us. And so I think those are the kind of things I do to myself, that pep talk before I
Mhm.
go. I
Yeah.
go to someone is like, okay, A, they don't mind hearing from me. Yeah, there might be a couple that brush you off, but whatever. But B, they need to hear it
They
because
need it.
if it was flipped around, I'd want someone
Yeah.
coming to me, right?
Yes.
The
That's
way
right.
someone came to you. And so I can live that out. And that's like my little pep talk before I walk into a situation.
Yeah, I mean, if we flip it on its head and we stop thinking about ourselves and we stop thinking about being uncomfortable, and I said, hey, there's someone that's going to show up at the workout and they're in a really bad place
Yeah,
and they're really hurting and they're hiding and they are desperate to talk to somebody
yeah,
and they don't know if they fit in and they don't know the steps forward. And you don't know their story, but actually I do, and I know you have something they desperately need to hear. If I told you that and I showed you who they were, would you be willing to talk to them?
yeah,
And when it's put that way and it's not about you and it's about someone else, I think we think like, well, of course. What do they
yeah,
need? Where do
yeah.
they live? Where are they at? Show me. I
Right.
want to help. I'd hate to know that someone's suffering and I could do something about it. And so that's really what, as we move out of being a survivor or a sad clown, we move into a servant, we realize, it's no longer about us. We're good. And as we're good, like we know that there's people that we can help. You have a story, Pax, that someone needs to hear. You have life experience. You have love and care that can make a difference in someone's life. And you're surrounded in this lonely world, as Kitty Hawk said, with men who are desperate to know that someone's in their corner, that someone cares, and you could begin to change the world just by getting them unstuck from being a survivor, and it would benefit you as well. And I know you'd be fulfilled in doing it. So, Kitty Hawk, appreciate you taking the time.
Man, thanks for doing this for the men, man. It's like I said, you're building an archive, which is really good that will last
Yeah.
for a long time.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. I think my goal was to your point, to catalog our thoughts of our community right now, to be able to bring all of us on to share our hearts, that we kind of have that time stamped and we have that gift to ourselves as we collectively, bring our thoughts together around this topic of leadership. And I really resonate with the F3 mission of um, invigorating small workout, creating small workout groups for the invigoration of male community leadership. And that's what we're doing here. And that's what you're doing, Kitty Hawk, not just by coming to the workouts, but by taking that into your community and all that you do. And that's what you're doing, Pac. So we'll see you this week at the Q Source table.